Okay, let's talk a little bit about imaginary numbers. Now, complex numbers are all the real numbers and the imaginary numbers. And what we are going to talk about are the imaginary numbers. When I have a negative underneath the radical. So the square root of -1 is I. Remember, I do have a video on simplifying radicals. But right here, I can say the square root of -81, that will be the square root of -1 times 81. I could break that down. The square root of 81, that is perfect, of 9. So that will come out from underneath the radical. The square root of -1 is just I, and I am done. The square root of -25. Once again, I could break that down into -1 times 25, which is going to equal the square root of 25 is perfect. It comes out, and when it comes out from underneath the radical, it is just 5. The square root of -1 is I. You see, this is not that hard, is it? The square root of -40. I have to think a little harder on 40. Does this have any perfect numbers in it? 8 times 5, that really won't help me immediately. I'm going to use 4 times 10. So I'm going to break this down to -1 times 4 times 10. Now remember, in my video on radicals, simplifying radicals, I talk about this more in depth. So let's see what we have here. I have the radical 4. Yes, it is perfect. It comes out from underneath the radical. It is 2. The square root of -1, that is I. It is not underneath the radical anymore. And the square root of 10, I can't do anything with that. 10 is not a perfect number. And even if I break that down to 2 times 5, neither one of those are perfect either. Now, some of you may want to turn off the video here. This is all you need. That's great. If you want to know a little bit more about i's and I to the 4th, etc., keep watching. Okay, sometimes you all have problems that you have to simplify, and you may have like I to the 100th. And what is that? Well, let's go through a little bit more detailed about how we figure that out. You know that the square root of -1 is I. Okay, you should know that I squared, well, that's I times I. I times I is I squared. Well, I is the square root of -1. So if I have the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, that's like the square root of -1 squared, which is just -1. You need to learn that I squared is just -1. I to the 3rd, well, that is I times I squared. But we have just discovered that I squared is -1. And -1 times I is -I. So I to the 3rd is just -I. I to the 4th, well, that is I squared times I squared. But we know from above that I squared is just -1. So that would be -1 times -1, which is 1. So in a nutshell, I is equal to I squared is -1. I to the 3rd is a -I, and I to the 4th. If we can ever get a multiple of 4, I to the 4th is just 1. Some students like to write down their I squared, I cubed, I to the 4th, and then they're trying to remember what is over here. They do notice that the 2 in the middle are negatives, and look at this. Watch me. I won! Ah, yes, that is corny, isn't it? I won. And the 2 middle ones are negative. Now, why do you need to know this? Some teachers will do a section where you're having to simplify i's raised to a larger power. Well, I to the 4th is the easiest for me because I to the 4th is just plain 1. I really like things to be in multiples of 4 because of that. Well, I to the 81st. Do y'all believe that's the same thing as I to the 80th times I to the 1st? Because when you multiply the same base, you add those exponents. 80 plus 1 is 81. Do y'all also believe that I to the 80th could be I to the 4th raised to the 20th? Because power to a power, we multiply, and 4 times 20 is 80. Don't forget this little I to the 1st over here. But I to the 4th is just 1, and 1 to the 20th, 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. I can go on, but it's just going to be 1. Don't forget this I, and 1 times I is just I. So I to the 81st would simplify into just I. Some curriculum includes this section, some do not, but I hope this helped you if you needed it.